Let me tell you about the most underrated organ in your body. It's not your heart. It's not your lungs. It's your legs. Every time you take a step, your leg muscles squeeze the veins running through them. And that squeeze acts like a second heart, pushing blood back up against gravity, back to where it needs to go. Scientists call it the skeletal muscle pump. I call it your body's built-in circulation engine. Now here's the problem. After 60, that engine starts to sputter. Not because your heart is failing, but because the muscles that power that pump start to weaken, and the valves in your veins that keep blood moving in one direction start to wear out. The result? Cold feet, swollen ankles, legs that feel heavy by the end of the day, numbness that creeps in when you least expect it. For years, we told people, just walk more. And walking helps. But walking alone doesn't target the exact mechanism that starts failing first. Today, I want to show you one simple exercise, something you can do in your living room, no equipment, 30 seconds at a time, that directly re-engages that pump. It's not a miracle, it's physiology. And once you understand why it works, you'll never look at your legs the same way again. Most people think of the heart as the sole engine of circulation, the tireless pump sitting behind your ribs, pushing blood through 60,000 miles of vessels day and night without rest. And that's true as far as it goes. But there's a second engine at work in your body, one that almost nobody talks about, and it's not located anywhere near your chest. It's in your legs. Here's the problem your heart faces every single day. Pumping blood down to your feet is easy. Gravity does the work for you, but getting that same blood back up against gravity through a network of veins that stretch from your ankles all the way to your heart, that's a much harder job. Your heart alone isn't strong enough to do this efficiently, especially over a lifetime of standing, sitting, and simply existing under the constant pull of gravity. If your heart had to do this job alone, blood would pool in your lower legs every time you stood still for too long. This is where the second engine comes in. Deep inside your calf muscles lies a network of veins surrounded by muscle tissue and one-way valves. Every time you take a step, every time you flex your ankle, or rise onto your toes, your calf muscles contract and squeeze those veins like a fist closing around a tube of toothpaste. That squeeze forces blood upward. Then when the muscle relaxes, one-way valves inside the vein snap shut behind that blood, preventing it from sliding back down. Contract, squeeze, valve shuts. Relax, refill, repeat. This is the skeletal muscle pump, sometimes called the peripheral heart. And it does roughly as much work moving blood through your body as your actual heart does, particularly in the lower half of your circulatory system. Think about what this means. Every step you take on a walk to the mailbox is a heartbeat happening in your legs. Every time you stand on your toes to reach a top shelf, you are actively assisting the return of blood to your heart. Every calf raise, every ankle flex, every simple shift of weight from heel to toe is a micro-pump event. One small contraction in a rhythm that, multiplied across thousands of steps a day, keeps blood from stagnating in your lower extremities. And this engine doesn't just move blood, it moves lymphatic fluid too, helping to reduce swelling and flush out cellular waste. It regulates temperature in your extremities, which is part of why cold feet are often a circulation problem rather than a just wear thicker socks problem. It reduces the pressure inside your veins, which protects the delicate valves inside them from stretching, weakening, and eventually failing. In many ways, your calf muscles are doing quiet, unglamorous, life-sustaining work every single day, and most of us never think about it until something goes wrong. Compare this to your heart, which beats whether you think about it or not, whether you exercise or not, whether you're asleep or awake. Your leg engine is different. It only works when you move. It is, in a very real sense, a muscle-powered pump that depends entirely on activity to function. Sit still for 6 hours on a long flight or spend a day mostly on the couch, and that second engine goes idle. Blood begins to pool. Pressure builds in the veins of your lower legs. This is not a hypothetical. It's the exact mechanism behind deep vein thrombosis risk on long flights, behind the ankle swelling many people notice after a day of sitting at a desk, behind the heaviness people describe in their legs at the end of a sedentary day. What's remarkable is how much this hidden engine is within your control. Unlike your heart rate, which is largely governed by your autonomic nervous system, the strength and activity of your calf muscle pump is something you can directly influence through simple, deliberate movement. You don't need a gym, you don't need special equipment. You need to understand that your legs are not just the part of your body that carries you from place to place. They are a circulatory organ in their own right, one that has been quietly supporting your heart's work since the day you took your first step, and one that, with the right attention, can continue doing that work well into your 70s, 80s, and beyond. By the time most people reach their 60s, they've noticed the signs without necessarily connecting them to a single cause. Feet that feel cold even in a warm room, ankles that look slightly puffier by evening than they did in the morning, a dull ache or heaviness in the calves after a day spent mostly sitting, or even after a day spent mostly standing. Occasional numbness or tingling in the toes that seems to come and go for no clear reason. Most people chalk this up to just getting older, and in a vague sense, they're right. But the specific mechanism behind it is rarely explained, and understanding that mechanism changes everything about how you approach it. Remember the second engine we talked about, the calf muscle pump, squeezing veins and pushing blood upward against gravity with every step. That system depends on two things working properly: strong, responsive muscle tissue and healthy one-way valves inside the veins. After 60, both of these start to decline, and they decline for reasons that are almost entirely explainable by biology, not bad luck. Start with the muscle side of the equation. Beginning as early as your 30s but accelerating noticeably after 60, the body undergoes a gradual loss of muscle mass and strength known as sarcopenia. It doesn't announce itself dramatically. There's no single day where you wake up and your calves are suddenly weaker. It's a slow erosion, a percentage or two of muscle mass lost per year, compounding over decades. And because most people's daily activity naturally decreases with age, less walking, less standing, more time seated, the calf muscles get less of the repeated contraction they need to stay strong. Weaker muscles mean a weaker squeeze. A weaker squeeze means less force pushing blood back up toward the heart. The pump is still there, but it's running at a fraction of its former power. Now add the second half of the problem, the valves themselves. Every vein in your legs contains tiny one-way valves, flaps of tissue that open to let blood flow upward and then snap shut to stop it from falling back down. These valves endure decades of pressure, particularly if you've spent years standing for work, sitting for long stretches, or simply living under the constant pull of gravity. Over time, the vein walls can stretch, and the valves, which need a tight seal to function, can lose their ability to close completely. When a valve doesn't close all the way, blood leaks backward, pools, and pressure builds in the vein below it. This is the mechanism behind varicose veins, behind chronic venous insufficiency, behind the visible bulging veins many people notice in their calves and ankles as they age. Here's what makes this especially important to understand. These two problems feed each other. Weaker calf muscles mean less force pushing blood upward, which means blood sits in the veins longer, which means more sustained pressure on the valves, which accelerates valve wear. Worn valves mean more blood pooling, which means more swelling and stretching of the vein walls, which makes it even harder for the weakened muscle pump to do its job. It's a slow, self-reinforcing cycle, and it's precisely why circulation problems tend to worsen gradually rather than appearing overnight. The downstream effects show up in ways that seem disconnected but aren't. Cold feet happen because sluggish circulation means less warm blood reaching the extremities. Swelling happens because fluid that should be pumped back toward the heart instead leaks into surrounding tissue. Numbness and tingling happen because nerves in the lower legs are sensitive to changes in blood flow and oxygen delivery. Heaviness and fatigue happen because muscle tissue that isn't receiving efficient circulation doesn't clear metabolic waste products as quickly, leaving that dull, tired ache behind. None of these are separate, mysterious complaints. They are all downstream symptoms of the same upstream cause, a weakening pump and failing valves. This is also why generic advice like move more or elevate your legs only goes so far. It's not wrong, but it's incomplete because it doesn't address the specific muscle groups responsible for driving that pump, and it doesn't rebuild the strength that's been gradually lost. Understanding this mechanism, muscle weakening on one side, valve failure on the other, each one making the other worse, is what makes it possible to intervene in a targeted way, rather than simply hoping the problem improves on its own. So, what is this one exercise? It's called the calf raise, sometimes referred to as a heel raise. And if you've ever done one without knowing why, you probably dismissed it as something ballet dancers do to warm up, or something a physical therapist hands you on a printed sheet without much explanation. But when you understand what's actually happening inside your legs when you perform this movement, you start to see it differently. This isn't a toning exercise, it's a direct mechanical intervention on the exact pump system we've been talking about. Here's how it works. Standing with your feet flat on the floor, shoulder width apart, you slowly rise up onto the balls of your feet, lifting your heels as high as comfortably possible, then slowly lower back down with control. That's it. No equipment, no gym membership. You can do it standing at your kitchen counter, holding onto a chair for balance if needed, or even seated with your feet flat on the ground, lifting just your heels while your toes stay planted. What makes this movement so specific to circulation rather than just general fitness is the exact muscle group it targets, the gastrocnemius and soleus muscles, the two major muscles that make up your calf. These are precisely the muscles that wrap around the deep veins we discussed earlier, the ones responsible for squeezing blood upward against gravity. When you rise onto your toes, you're not just working muscle for the sake of strength. You are directly contracting the exact tissue that performs the pumping action of the skeletal muscle pump. Every repetition is, quite literally, one deliberate pump cycle. Contraction, squeeze, release, refill, performed with intention rather than left to the incidental movement of daily life. This is what separates the calf raise from simply walking more as generic advice. Walking does engage the calf muscles, but the contraction is often partial, brief, and inconsistent, especially if someone has a shortened stride, wears supportive shoes that limit ankle flexion, or walks slowly. A deliberate calf raise, on the other hand, takes the muscle through its full range of motion, a complete forceful contraction at the top, a full stretch at the bottom, which means a more complete squeeze on the deep veins and a stronger, more effective push of blood back toward the heart. The exercise also directly addresses the muscle weakening we talked about in the previous keynote. Because sarcopenia, that gradual age-related muscle loss, tends to affect the lower legs significantly, especially in people who've become more sedentary. The calf muscles are often one of the first areas to lose meaningful strength. Repeated calf raises, done consistently, rebuild that strength over time. A stronger calf muscle contracts with more force, which means a more powerful squeeze on the veins, which means more blood pushed upward with each repetition. It's the same mechanism working in reverse. Instead of a weakening muscle contributing to a weakening pump, a strengthening muscle contributes to a strengthening pump. There's something else worth noting about why this particular exercise is so practical for people over 60 specifically. It requires no jumping, no high-impact strain on the knees or hips, no equipment, and can be modified for balance concerns by holding onto a counter or chair. It can be done in short sets throughout the day, 15 or 20 repetitions while brushing your teeth, waiting for coffee to brew, or during a commercial break, rather than requiring a dedicated workout session. This matters because consistency is what drives the physiological benefit. A single set of calf raises won't meaningfully change circulation, but performed several times a day, most days of the week, the cumulative effect on muscle strength and venous return becomes significant over weeks and months. There's also a secondary benefit worth mentioning. The movement improves ankle mobility and balance, both of which naturally decline with age, and both of which are independently linked to fall risk. So while the primary purpose of this exercise is circulatory, reactivating that second heart in your legs, the person doing it consistently is also building stronger stabilizing muscles around the ankle joint, which pays dividends well beyond blood flow alone. It's a rare case where one simple, almost effortless movement addresses multiple aspects of age-related decline at the same time, using nothing more than the person's own body weight and a few minutes of attention each day. Improving circulation in your legs might sound like a localized fix, something that helps with cold feet or swollen ankles and stops there. But the truth is that the second engine we've been discussing doesn't operate in isolation. It's wired into nearly every major system in your body, and when it starts working better, the effects ripple outward in ways that go far beyond the legs themselves. Start with the most serious risk: blood clots. When blood pools in the lower legs due to a weakened muscle pump and failing valves, it doesn't just sit there harmlessly. Stagnant blood is far more prone to clotting than blood that's moving efficiently. This is the underlying mechanism behind deep vein thrombosis, a condition where a clot forms in one of the deep veins of the leg. Most of the time, these clots stay put and simply cause pain and swelling, but sometimes a piece breaks free, travels through the bloodstream, and lodges in the lungs, causing a pulmonary embolism, a medical emergency that can be fatal. This is why doctors tell people to move their legs during long flights or after surgery. It's not a minor comfort suggestion. It's a direct intervention on the exact pump mechanism we've been describing. Strengthening that pump through consistent exercise reduces the conditions that allow clots to form in the first place. Now, consider the heart itself. Remember that your heart isn't built to handle the return trip of blood from your legs entirely on its own. It relies on that muscular pump to assist. When the leg pump is weak, more of that burden falls back on the heart, forcing it to work harder to compensate for inefficient venous return. Over years, this added strain isn't trivial. A stronger, more effective calf muscle pump takes real pressure off the heart, allowing it to do its job with less resistance and less compensatory strain. In this sense, strengthening your legs is, in a very direct physiological way, a form of cardiac support. You are not just helping your legs, you are lightening the load on the organ we tend to think of as solely responsible for circulation. Then there's the matter of energy and daily function, which tends to be the effect people notice first, even before they understand why it's happening. Poor circulation means muscle tissue throughout the lower body receives less oxygen and has metabolic waste cleared more slowly. This translates directly into that familiar feeling of heavy, tired legs by the end of the day, or a general sense of sluggishness that seems to have no clear cause. When circulation improves, oxygen delivery improves, waste clearance improves, and that heaviness lifts. People often describe feeling more energetic, more willing to walk further, more capable of standing through a family gathering or a shopping trip without needing to sit down and rest. This isn't a placebo effect or a vague sense of well-being. It's a measurable physiological consequence of a circulatory system doing its job more efficiently. Mobility and independence are tied into this same web. As circulation improves and the muscles responsible for it grow stronger, balance tends to improve as well, since the calf muscles play a significant stabilizing role in standing and walking. This matters enormously for people over 60, for whom falls represent one of the most serious threats to long-term independence. A stronger, more stable lower leg isn't just about better blood flow. It's about being able to navigate stairs confidently, catch yourself if you stumble, and maintain the kind of physical independence that allows someone to continue living life on their own terms, rather than relying on others for basic mobility. Even skin health and wound healing are connected to this system. Poor circulation in the lower legs is a major reason why cuts, scrapes, and pressure sores on the feet and ankles heal so slowly in older adults, and in more severe cases, why some wounds fail to heal at all, leading to serious complications. Tissue needs adequate blood flow to deliver the oxygen and nutrients required for repair. When circulation improves, that healing capacity improves right along with it, which is a detail rarely mentioned in conversations about leg exercises, but matters enormously for long-term health. What becomes clear when you trace out all these connections is that this isn't a story about vanity or minor discomfort. Cold feet and swollen ankles are the visible, surface-level symptoms of a system that touches clotting risk, cardiac strain, energy levels, fall risk, and wound healing all at once. A single, simple exercise performed consistently doesn't just address the symptom you can see and feel. It addresses the underlying mechanism connecting all of these outcomes together, which is exactly why something as small as a calf raise can carry consequences that extend so far beyond the legs themselves. So let's bring this full circle. Your legs are not just the part of your body that gets you from one place to another, they are a second heart, quietly pumping blood upward against gravity with every step you take. After 60, that pump naturally weakens, and the valves that keep blood flowing in the right direction start to wear down. That's not a life sentence, it's biology, and biology responds to the right input. The calf raise isn't a miracle cure, and I'd never tell you it replaces medical care if you're already dealing with serious circulation issues. Please talk to your doctor about those. But as a daily habit, it is one of the simplest, most evidence-backed ways to directly strengthen the exact mechanism responsible for moving blood out of your legs and back to your heart. No equipment, no gym, just a few minutes, a few times a day, standing at your kitchen counter or sitting in your favorite chair. I want you to try it today. Not next week, not when I have time, is today. 15 repetitions, right now if you can. Notice how your calves feel. Do it again tomorrow. Give it a few weeks and pay attention to your feet, your ankles, your energy by the end of the day. If this helped you understand your body a little better, hit subscribe so you don't miss the next one. And drop a comment below telling me how the calf raises felt or which topic you want me to break down next. Your legs have been working for you your whole life. It's time you understood exactly how.